Well, on that note,
we're not recording yet, right?
No, we are actually.
Crap. Hey, welcome back to the Backstairs podcast. We are back once again.
We're back.
Backstairs.
We're back.
We are back.
You know what? We always say that. We're back. Where'd we go?
We went up the stairs.
We weren't here for sure.
Well, we went our separate ways.
I'm John.
I'm Aaron.
And I'm Scott.
I just want to start off by wishing you guys a happy Valentine's Day.
Oh,
Thank you.
It's Valentine's Day now.
We're
recording on
It won't be Valentine's Day when you hear it.
February 14th.
Hey, Scott.
John, will you be my Valentine?
I'm taken. Although I don't have my ring on right now, so yes, I would love to.
Why are you putting your ring finger out there? I'm taken. I didn't want to marry you. I just wanted you to be my Valentine. Jeez.
Doing like the single ladies Beyonce thing.
Listen, it's been a rough week. Okay,
all right. It has been rough.
I had some heartbreak Sunday.
It was. Yep.
Yeah,
it was awful.
It was tough. It was tough.
Some of us weren't even there. So,
yeah, good point.
Why was that heartache?
There was a football game that for some reason, I've tied all of my life emotions into. And,
Sorry.
Just
can we have a moment of silence for the Eagles?
Yep.
Did you see the Sarah McLachlan? Did you see the commercial that made fun of the Sarah McLachlan commercial though?
Yes.
That was pretty awesome.
Yes.
I actually missed all
That's a Fox.
I watched them later on YouTube.
I was
in bed at halftime.
I thought about it, but it was like, am I just doing what they want by watching commercials after?
Yes.
Like, I just don't want to be a part of the machine.
Oh, crap. And I just realized we're going to get demonetized because I said Super Bowl.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Rats.
I don't think we've been monetized at all for the past 2 seasons.
Oh, well, then good.
We're not making any money
We're
on
not running
this.
the risk of anything.
It'd be nice to get monetized so we could worry about being demonetized.
This is where we talk about our Patreon. We should probably set one up.
If you
one of these days.
would like to...
if you would like to, out of the goodness of your heart, donate money to
open those wallets, people.
For some crazy reason, you like what you're seeing or hearing, slide those dollars towards us.
Anyways, we have a guest with us.
Oh, that's right.
Aaron, what's going on with your with the show thing that we talked about last week?
Oh yeah, you're doing a show. That's right.
That's a good way of putting it. I'm in a show directed by our guest this evening.
What a segue!
Wow.
And I would love just to introduce Aaron Louque, the beautiful, the talented, the beautifully talented.
I told you that he hit on you.
His name's Aaron?
Yeah, I know. There's going to be 2 Aarons. How cool is that?
Oh, boy.
We're outnumbering people.
We are screwed, John.
Yeah.
We're totally screwed.
4 A's are better than 2.
That's what I keep on telling people. But so how you doing?
I'm good. Thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here.
I don't want. Yay! He's here.
Oh, yeah. There's
Let's hear it.
Applause button.
Anyway.
Oh, there it is.
Hi.
Hello.
So, welcome to the podcast.
Yes, thank you. I'm excited to be here.
I'm super stoked that you decided to do this with us. So I don't want to stop. John, you're supposed to be interviewing.
I mean, you keep going what you were doing. I liked your energy.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, but where was he going?
I don't know. That's why I'm excited. Well, I asked you a question though, like how's the play? And you're like, how's it going? And then you segued. So,
okay. I think the play is going pretty well.
Yeah.
I feel like everybody is really. I don't want to use jiving as a word, just because I feel like there's better words.
Apparently, you do.
But something that sounds like the feel of jiving well together. I feel like I'm like in the a 20s mafia.
So people aren't just walking around clueless. They're I've been saving that for weeks.
You got a good crew there. You know, they've been together a lot.
No, we all know each other and love each other, and it's really cool that you're jumping into the OHMPAA stage directing.
Yeah, it's my first foray into directing with OHMPAA. It's been years since I had worked with OHMPAA, so I was happy to be kind of back home, so to speak, where I started.
Yeah. That's super cool.
Well, started. Why don't we hear about it?
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about your history.
So I, growing up as a kid, I got into theater in elementary school. Did a little bit of drama club in middle school, and then I got to high school and I met Sally Jones.
Yeah.
She was teaching the drama class at the time, and she was directing Man of La Mancha at the time, and she needed just someone to do a very small walk-on, walk-off role. And I was like, I'm available. I'll do it. So that was my first foray into working with OHMPAA. And then all throughout the rest of my high school career, I, did stage crew, stage managed, just helped out in any sort of way I could, because I just wanted to be a part of the theater. Like, I didn't care how, I just wanted to be there in the room. So, and even, when I went off to college, I came back home for a couple summers and did a show or two here and there. Cool. But it's been, at least 10 or so years since I had worked with OHMPAA, and I was happy to be back, where I got my start.
Yeah. We're excited for you to be back.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Speaking of, I was just thinking that I love having high schoolers like running like backstage crew and stuff. I did a show where I was running lights, and there was a high schooler helping backstage, and we have like the over ear like mic right against your face,
fancy headsets. Yeah.
And he just like mouth breathed the whole time. And so all you hear is I'd be like, hey, can you just like shut off your mic until you need to talk? He's like, why? I'm like, it sounds like I'm talking to Darth Vader. That's why. But it's, I love, like the community part of it, like
absolutely.
Having, high schoolers come in and, be a part of, a really cool thing that we get to do in our community.
And I think, at that age for the high schoolers, it's important to be a part of the community aspect. It's not just their school performances. They're getting out into the community and getting to work with people that have done this for several years, people that are also new to it, maybe.
Yeah.
And it definitely helps foster that relationship with all sorts of theater to get them maybe motivated to go on and do it more so in their lives, whether they go to college and major in it or not.
Yeah.
They have the experience, and then later down the road can go, wow, I miss doing this. I want to do it again. Or they can go, I have experience doing this.
Yeah.
I'm willing to help.
Yeah. No, it's definitely something I think that OHMPAA should, focus on a little bit more. It's just getting the high school, people involved.
Well, that goes. Yeah. So last week's episode, we interviewed 3. I don't know if you know all of them, but Gabby Bodwin, Marin Pinkham.
I've heard of Marin
and Camden Colby.
Yes.
So all 3 of them had something to do with Spelling Bee.
Awesome.
So we kind of had like a recap, like, hey, it's so good to have young talent. And one of the questions I asked them was like, how do we do it better? How do we get more involvement? And they gave a lot of credit to their drama club, even though like during COVID, they kind of had to, they had restrictions. But I remember our years in high school, because you were the year behind me, I'm pretty sure.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, our drama club was it was thriving, right? Like it was enough. There was a lot of crossover involved.
Yeah, there was definitely a lot of crossover during our time, between going back and forth between drama club and OHMPAA. There was a lot of, and I think even though Sally wasn't running the club at the time, I think she had a huge influence in that, because those of us that were in her drama class were, she would encourage us to go audition for things or get involved. And so there was that collaboration sort of, between the two. And I think it's, again, important that we try to bridge that as well with those younger talents. So that way we can get them involved a little bit more. Yeah.
So you were pretty heavily involved in your younger years.
Yes. Yeah. I don't know. I was co-president my senior year of the drama club.
Senior year. So so was that the big one act year that you guys did?
Yes, our one act that year was pretty big.
Yeah. And that kind of inspired a lot of years after that to still kind of stick to, because there was one year that it was hosted at Oxford Hills, right?
Yes, I wish I had been involved with that.
Well, but that is in part to what you and your friends were able to do when you were in high school. That's
right.
pretty cool.
Yeah. And I mean, the one act competition is such a amazing thing. And, having worked at another high school in the state and run the drama club for that school, one of the big things I imparted on my students was, let's do this one act festival, because you get to meet other students from across the state that like the same things that you do.
Can you kind of share the process of like the whole one act?
Yeah. So, and having firsthand experience, and also I was on the state council that put on the one act competition. So the main drama council. But what happens is, usually around fall, December, we start registering for this festival that happens in early March, where high schools across the state meet at, one location, and it happens at like 8 or 9 schools across the state all at the same time. But we have regionals where these schools get together and they present a 40-minute show, a one act play, so to speak. And it can be, a play that's specifically written as a one act, or it can be a student written original piece, or it can be a full length play that's been cut down, to 40 minutes with permission.
Cool.
And essentially it's just a giant theater festival. You get to watch these schools put on these shows. You get to watch them set their set up. There's a 5-minute time limit to put their set up. And of course there's deductions and points taken off and disqualifications if you go over those time limits. You get 40 minutes to put on your show, and then you get 5 minutes to take your set down. You get to watch all of that happen. And then there are judges that are theater professionals from across the state,
cool.
In New England as well, that come in and watch the shows and give feedback to the students.
Yeah.
So that, the students get to meet the judges. Each judge gets so long to tell them what they saw, give them some feedback, some critiques.
Mm-hmm.
And then the students get to ask them questions about really anything theater related. So, what did you think of this? What did you think of that? What would you do in this situation? Even down to like, what's your favorite show? And it's just a great experience because the students get to learn not only from other students, but from other theater professionals across the state. So it's a great networking opportunity for them.
Yeah.
And it's just I love it so much because I had such a great time with it in high school. I met some amazing people that I even to this day still talk to and keep in touch with.
Yeah.
And then it came full circle for me when I got to direct a drama club.
That's so cool. Yeah.
And it was something that I was like, oh, I'm so passionate about this and I love this for my kids that I want them to experience everything that I felt. So I love getting to see, like Oxford Hills hosting, because it's a beautiful space, a beautiful stage. Certainly can host, 7 other schools. So I was thrilled to find out when they were hosting, and I would love to see it happen again and even be a part of it,
Yeah. That's so cool. I think we should be judges.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But I would want to do it like American Idol style.
Okay. On the count of 3, you have to call who you would be original judges. 1.
I think John and
2.
John and I are only good at judging you.
Okay.
3. Paul Abdul.
That's what I wanted.
Well, I gave you plenty of opportunity to get ready for it, and you didn't. So 1, 2, 3.
Paul Abdul.
Oh, damn it!
You're definitely
competition.
You're definitely a Simon.
No.
Yeah.
I can't. Turtlenecks. Man, I feel like I'm choking.
You could do like a pop collar like you're doing.
Guys. We have a guest.
Yeah, and he clearly is into it. Right?
I am. I'd be Randy Jackson.
See? There you go.
Thank you.
It's a no from me, dog.
And you even got it right. Even better.
I just wanted to say yes to everybody. Because that was like Paula's thing. Like she never like, it was,
She loved everybody.
I know.
She really did.
Yep.
You were guaranteed a yes vote and a no vote. And then it really just came up to a third person. So anyways,
At one
I
point,
digress.
so you left Oxford Hills.
I did.
And what'd you do?
I went to college in Franklin, Massachusetts, small private liberal arts college called Dean College, majored in theater. And I found a lot of different ways that I could do theater while I was there. My program at the time encompassed everything. Like I had classes on set design and the technical aspect of building those sets, lighting design, sound design, stage management, dramaturgy, dramatic literature, like just a broad spectrum of everything.
So whatever you wanted to learn, you could learn it.
Basically, pretty much.
That's so cool.
And I was learning from people that had worked in the industry and had worked professionally and were still working and directing across the state of Massachusetts and Rhode Island. And it was just a really incredible thing for me because that's where I fell into stage management as well. I went with the intention of I'm going to be, a Broadway star or move to Hollywood and do movies. But I also learned a little bit more about stage management and fell into that. And so kind of my career throughout college was I would be in a show one semester and then I would stage manage a show the next semester just to get both of my creative needs met.
Yeah.
It was a great time.
Yeah.
I loved it.
I saw on your pre-interview the guide you did, you did some work with that Playhouse in Natick. I can't think of what the name is. I have to look at it.
There was is it Norwood?
Norwood Theater. Yeah. So what did you do with them? Because I just found out about them recently, actually.
So one of my professors was directing a chorus line and it was, set to be just after I graduated from college. And so I went and auditioned and I had been cast as an ensemble and a cut dancer. And then I had a lot of conflicts. I was, going away on vacation for a couple of weeks and graduation and everything. So I couldn't really commit the time. So I was like, maybe I shouldn't do it. So I wasn't going to. But then they, like 10 days before they opened, they were like, we still need ensemble and cut dancers. Will you come and do this? And I was like, sure. So for anyone that knows the opening combination to a chorus line, I learned that in 10 days.
Oh my gosh.
It probably was good that I was a cut dancer because it wasn't perfect. But it took me all of those 10 days to like really nail down that combination. So I just, did the one show and then came home after, college and everything. But it was a good time. And I got involved just because, one of my theater professors was directing it and I loved working with her.
Yeah.
So
my wife is from that area. So the husband of the woman who runs it came into my Verizon store like a month ago. So for some, I was like, when I saw that pop up on your thing, like, that's nuts.
That's a small world.
They've
moment.
kind of blown up in the last couple of years. So that's pretty cool. That area needs that. So
yeah,
kind of a rabbit trail, but I thought that was really cool.
No, that is really cool. They do a lot of great stuff down there.
So, I mean, you get all these tools in college. I mean, you learn all this knowledge. I mean, you must have been excited to bring that home with you. Or, I mean,
yeah. I
did it feel like you were kind of degrading yourself? I mean, how does that work? I mean,
there's always, you go off to college and you expect to achieve great things. And there's always, in the back of your mind that I don't want to go home, so to speak, because then I feel like I'm regressing and not progressing. But, it's never a bad thing to come home because you get to share your talent with the local community. So I came home and wasn't doing a whole lot. I got a job for the summer and then I came home from that and started working just to kind of save money. And then probably around late December, my mom was like, you should audition for something. You've been out of school for 6 months and you haven't done anything. You should audition for something. And I was like, yeah, okay, you're right. So I traveled to Auburn and auditioned for a show at Community Little Theater and got in the ensemble. And that's actually where I met my partner of 8 years.
Oh, cool.
So we've been together pretty much since then. And I have just continued to work anywhere across the state that I can find theatrical work. And it's been nice to, again, come back to where I grew up and got started and just kind of share everything I've learned with others that are interested.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you ever act together?
Yes. I was going to say, I don't know that we've acted together, but we did a production of Cabaret together. Cool. He was the MC. I was Bobby. And then we've also, we've had quite a few different theatrical relationships. Like he's directed a show that I've been in.
Yeah.
I kind of nepotism, I guess there you would call that a nepo baby, if you will. Got cast because I'm dating the director.
It helps.
Right. Definitely. And then, he's directed shows that I've stage managed for him. So it's a good working relationship.
There you go.
Yeah, that's cool.
Good.
Yeah. No, my wife, Rachel, and I were obviously doing Jekyll and Hyde in the fall. And that's our second time doing it. So we'll see. We'll see how well we can, work together. But
yeah. And you'll definitely have, because we have those sort of snarky moments of like, one says something, the other one's like, really, that's what you want to do? And, just a little, that's the direction you want to go in.
Really?
Are you sure about that?
Yeah.
Can't think of anything better to do.
That sounds familiar. That sounds familiar.
I can see that happening.
So what are you up to now?
So now I'm directing Clue for OHMPAA.
Whoa! What a coincidence.
Right.
You're in Clue, aren't you?
That's how I know you.
Yeah, I thought you looked familiar. So yeah, I'm directing Clue, which is a show that I have done before with my high school group. But it's a good show, and I love the humor of it all.
Yeah.
And you are helping me out. Sort of saved my neck there. Thank you for that.
Yeah, that's always tough. We've talked about that on the podcast already, but it's tough having to recast. Probably the best time to have to do it, right?
Yes, I was thankful that it was fairly early instead of, because I have been part of experiences where it's happened very close to the actual showtime. So thankful that it happened early, even though it was, kind of a sad, devastating blow. But, with those things comes new opportunities and new, relationships to be formed. And
Scott and I would like to know, why'd you settle for
why Aaron?
Why him?
Thanks, guys.
Why was he your pick?
What were you thinking, man?
So I saw Spelling Bee. I during an early preview and pre full audience, got to be an onstage speller during dress rehearsals, which was a fun experience.
Yeah.
And one of the spellers happened to be Aaron.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And
we sat next to each other, right? You were in my row. Yeah.
Did he let you play with his toys?
Yeah.
You gave him $50 and hey,
anything you're doing,
I think he might have traded Pokemon cards over me. I don't know. I think he pulled out like a Bulbasaur or something, and I was like, oh,
Bulbasaur. Okay.
Yeah. But one of the things that I really liked about Aaron's character and Aaron's performance was how just kind of free spirited and you obviously weren't afraid to appear silly, and you really fed into just kind of how empty-minded the character is. And, he's one of those you don't expect to be smart and good at spelling. And then he pulls out these words and is like, hey, I can do this. And I kind of took that as also knowing that, it was only the second or third show that you had performed in. But your performance was so not what I had expected.
Yeah.
And I was taken aback by just the level of, commitment you gave to your character. And so with Wadsworth, the character that you're playing in Clue, he's got this sort of complex thing again about, I don't want to give too much away for those that aren't familiar, but he has this complexity about him that I think you help encaptured in, was it Leaf?
Yes.
I was like, I think it's Leaf Coney Bear.
Yeah.
Nailed it.
So there was a complexity about Leaf that I think, I could also see mirrored in Wadsworth in a different way, but it still was like, I think, and asking around with, like who's in the area, who's available, who would be good for this, who would be willing, your name came up several times across the board. Huh? So I was like, I don't know him very well, but I'll reach out and see.
Well, we give him our time, but we're pretty glad you made a good choice. So
yeah, I paid him to say all that about me.
Yeah. I told you.
And for the record, he wasn't acting during Spelling Bee.
Yeah, no.
There wasn't much effort involved with the whole nothing there.
It's not an act. It's not an act.
No, so you're telling me I've set myself up. I'm kidding.
No, but like an honest moment, Aaron's super hardworking, and I'm super happy to see him in another production. I think he's going to kill it.
Yeah.
Nice.
I agree.
About me.
And that's enough. I do have one question for you, though.
Yeah.
I don't remember a Wadsworth figure in the Clue game.
That's right.
Yeah, there isn't.
And I played this a lot.
Can you explain that to me? Because I love Clue. And what am I getting myself into? Do they reinvent the wheel, or who's Wadsworth?
So Wadsworth is the butler for Mr. Body, who owns the mansion.
Okay, I don't remember Mr. Body either.
Well, so Mr. Body is the one who you're solving his murder.
Okay.
So with the game, Mr. Body's been murdered by one of his 6 guests that he has, and you have to figure out which one of them did it. And so with the play, Wadsworth is almost the narrator, not necessarily narrating to the audience, but is that common bond between everyone of going, okay, what do we have to do here?
Sure.
Like, this is what you're doing here.
Yeah, it kind of like brings the audience through. Like he's like
moves the story along.
Yeah, he's the one that's like, hey, this is what's going on. You guys are all being blackmailed.
Right.
This is the way through the house. This is,
Gotcha.
This is what's going on here. And
yeah,
he gets into the shenanigans as well.
Definitely some shenanigans.
I'm excited. I've seen the movie, and of course I know about I've seen the musical. Musical and the play pretty close, or
I don't believe so. I am not as familiar with the musical as I am the other iterations of Clue. I know that with the musical, it's a little bit Mystery of Edwin Drood, where the audience can have input and vote who they think the murderer was.
Cool.
We don't get that with the play. It's kind of set in stone as to what happens. But if you're familiar with the movie, there's a lot of those, so to speak, isms of the movie, the iconic lines and the little bits that happen. And, without giving the ending away,
sure.
There's multiple endings, so to speak, in the movie. It happened this way, or it could have happened that way, but this is how it really happened. And, all of those are kind of tied up into one with the ending of the play as well. Yeah. So
I remember when because obviously you pitched this to the OHMPAA board, and you had said that you had directed Clue Junior. Am I misremembering? Or
no, you're correct. It's a high school edition.
Okay.
Not too many changes. Actually, it's very similar. It's just it's essentially the same show. There's just a few like word changes here and there to make it a little bit more age appropriate for high school age.
But I think what I took big from that pitch. Well, first off, I'm super excited. This is the first season in a while where OHMPAA's been able to do 3 productions and like full productions in a year, which is super exciting for us. And just the idea of having like another director come forward and like saying they want to direct it's a big thing. And name recognition. I mean, it's an exciting thing. And you just started rehearsals,
Yes.
but at the high school.
Yep.
You were there last night.
Yes, correct.
And I mean, the OHMPAA stage, pretty confined.
It is.
And the stage of the high school is nowhere near confined. I mean, there's
it's
plenty
huge.
of space.
I started kind of rehearsals on that stage being like, we'll figure it out when we get into space. And then, there was a little bit of like, maybe we should, tape out. So I put down some tape lines on the floor of like, this is my guesstimate of what the OHMPAA space is like. Mm-hmm. So I've tried to confine it a little bit more for the actors who, might not be as familiar with the stage at the Grange, but we're making it work.
And for the sake of the people listening, the idea of that, the Grange is a very old building, very, very wonderful building that we're lucky to have, but it takes a lot to get that building up to a temperature.
Yeah.
So thankfully the high school, the school department gracious enough to let us be there. So that's exciting.
Yeah. No, we're super thankful.
Yeah, that's really it's great.
The
community.
Community.
I'm pretty sure that the OHMPAA building is as wide as the opening to the stage itself.
I would actually. That's probably very true.
I think you could fit the building through the stage. So it's quite a bit smaller.
There's quite some confinement, but I think that will help, play into how zany the show is. It's tight quarters, and so that always lends itself to the humor of trying to make something seem huge when you've got about 2 feet of space on either side.
Right. I've often wanted, I've been thinking of our stage and things to do with it. And I think that doing some force perspectives of things on the stage, I think would be a lot of fun. Like you see the hallways that get narrower that aren't actually that narrow. And so you walk into it and then you turn to a giant.
Yeah.
I was like, I wonder if we could do something like that at the OHMPAA stage. But I don't know.
I think you could. I think there's some magic to be made there.
Sure you could.
Yeah. I don't know.
Break's over.
I keep looking for that camera and it's not there.
It's over there.
It's over there.
This one's
that camera's over there.
And this one's seeing you, I'm pretty sure too.
Well, I keep
this one can't see me past your head.
For some reason I feel like the camera should be
It's okay. Straight on.
Center, right on me.
Right on you.
Well, if I knew somebody at Verizon that could help me get a new phone that has a little bit more storage.
Maybe the Verizon guy can hook you up.
I don't know. I heard he quit.
Yeah.
Anyway,
it's been going around.
Yeah, well, something's been going around. So, Aaron, now that we've talked about you directing Clue, right? I feel like we should probably pick your brain.
Okay.
I'm a big strategy guy. I love board games with strategy. I love anything that has to do with strategy. I like it. If it doesn't, I typically don't waste my time.
Right.
Like Uno, Yahtzee, those games can go fall in a pit. But I do really enjoy Clue. So I kind of wanted to pick your brain a little bit.
Okay.
And get your Clue hot takes, if you will.
Got it. I'm ready.
Clue hot takes.
Now, have you played Clue before?
Yes.
Okay.
That's one of my favorites.
Have you won Clue before?
Yes. I actually don't think people want to play with me because I always win.
There you go. So you're the perfect person. Well, so
we're going to have a podcast of us just playing Clue now.
Here's my first question, right? Do you have a go-to character?
Oh, yeah. Professor Plum is usually my go-to because for the longest time, purple was one of my favorite colors. So I was always drawn to Professor Plum.
Sure.
Nice.
Now, this is a relatively newer board here. One thing I know personally is that, as they've updated them, the characters have changed a little bit.
Yep.
But the layout of the board, for the most part, has stayed pretty
much the same.
It's pretty much the same. Is there any strategy to picking a character because of where it is on the board?
Yes, at least in my opinion.
Okay.
As much as, I love Professor Plum and, there's a door up there by the study at his start space, but the strategy is you want to pick someone that's relatively close to a room so you can get in fast and start figuring it out.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Start
Okay.
making your suggestions.
Now the corner rooms have like that secret entrance, secret passageway, or whatever, right?
Yep.
What's your take on that? Are you a secret passageway type of guy?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because
Jumping back and forth?
it's another one of those, you
gotta-
get into a new room,
Yeah.
you make a suggestion.
Yeah.
It's just, for me, it's about figuring out, and this is why people don't want to play with me. you figure out as fast as you can, where the cards are, or where the suspects, where the weapons are, who's got what.
Yeah.
So the more that you can duck into the rooms,
Yes.
the better.
Sure.
Mhm.
Now, if we're really in a Clue game,
Yep.
I want to know who do you think did it?
Everyone's got their motivations.
Yeah, but who's the guiltiest?
I feel like Colonel Mustard
Why?
is usually the guiltiest.
I mean, he has
just-
a weapon on him already.
And he just looks angry. Like, he just looks like he wants to kill anything that moves.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
he looks like one of those people that goes and hunts elephants.
Right. I always envisioned Colonel Mustard to be like that one guy in Jumanji who comes out of the
exactly.
board and is like,
Who's played by the same actor as his dad, right? Isn't
Right.
that how it was?
Yes.
yeah, that's my, like, when I think of Colonel Mustard, that's what I think of.
Yeah.
And then I'm curious, is there a strategy, do you think, if it was real, right? If we're in the game of Clue what weapon are you going with? What do you think?
It's tricky because, like, the revolver feels like the obvious answer,
Okay.
but I actually think the lead pipe is probably one of the most underrated weapons because it's just a pipe. It's not necessarily exciting.
Mhm.
So I feel like the lead pipe is always a good, you don't necessarily expect it. So when it is the lead pipe, you're like, yeah,
That's
got it.
pretty, I mean, it's kind of dramatic though, because you're really getting some aggression out. If you're beating somebody with a lead
Right.
pipe, man, there's
And if
some
it's Colonel
emotion
Mustard,
involved.
I mean, he could really do some damage with
Maybe.
it.
Yeah. And I mean, to your point, Scott, it's one of those that, like, you can't, it's not one and done.
No.
The revolver, one shot, you're done. The knife, if you go right for the heart, it's it. And even the candlestick and the wrench, like, they've got some heft to them. And, like, the wrench has the little mouth. So, like, these can do some damage on their own. But the lead pipe, like you said, Scott, you just got to really go for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And not to get into murder too much.
It's another murder podcast.
I was going to
now.
say, you're going to turn into a true crime podcast.
But like, if you were going to kill somebody inside a house with a bunch of people, if you were going to use a gun, you instantly
It's a little more
alert.
obvious.
Yeah.
You instantly alert everybody that there's been a murder,
Mhm.
or at least an attempted murder.
Yeah.
But like I agree with like the bludgeoning objects. There's less blood. Like, you can knock somebody on the dome without like really creating too much. Like, if you stab somebody, there's going to be blood everywhere.
Right.
And then the room, right? I mean, is there an ideal room to do the deed in? Different source of lighting, different surfaces.
I don't know. It's tricky because, again, I think the hall is severely underrated. But like, you're not going to murder someone the second they walk in the house. Maybe if they're running to leave, you can get them in the hall. I think the ballroom,
Again, with the lead pipe too, right?
yeah.
So you're already,
I was gonna say, I think the ballroom, because
So many exits.
there's so many exits, but like, you've got natural lighting with the windows, so you probably won't have it. It'll be dark, and it's furthest away from like the exit of the house. You can break a window and get out if you really want to, but furthest away from the exit.
all right. So we have Colonel Mustard with the lead pipe
In the ballroom.
in the ballroom.
Nice.
The only reason I wanted to do this is to get a title for his episode. So I think that'd be Colonel Mustard with the lead pipe in the ballroom with Aaron Louque. I think that would be
That's a good title.
There's a lot of work to get to that, but I like it.
Come on, we can't talk about Clue without doing something Clue related.
I remember a time, unlike the rest of you, where there was just
Where
the
dinosaurs
game.
roamed.
Before the movie came out, I remember the game. We were playing the game back then. I mean, they had this game back in the 60s, maybe even the 50s.
We've talked enough about the board game. Can we talk a little bit about the movie? How good is that movie?
The movie
It's
is
a great
so
movie.
good.
Yeah.
The movie is so good.
So good.
It's, it's a cult classic. It's one of my favorites because every nostalgic movie you think of is, it's one of my favorites. But, it's one of those that you can watch and no matter how many times you watch it, it's still funny.
Yeah.
You know what's coming, but you still find ways to find something new in it.
Yeah.
Oh, or just laugh as much as the last time you did the same thing. It's like it's up there with like Blazing Saddles and Young Frankenstein. You can just watch it and laugh at the same thing over and over because it's so good.
Yeah, no, it's so funny.
And the cast
is great.
That it's one of those things that as you go on and you see other things that those people have done, you go, oh, that's that person. One of the things for me was Martin Mull. He plays Colonel Mustard. I'm like, that's the guy from Sabrina the Teenage Witch. Yeah. And then even later for me down the road, Madeline Kahn, who plays Mrs. White.
Yeah.
She did a lot of other things, but then she was also
Blazing Saddles.
Right. And she was also
like Frankenstein.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, she did do that one. That's right. But she also was an incredible Broadway star. Like she did a few musicals and she's just incredibly talented.
Oh yeah.
No, it's so good. And like, I love rewatching it because I watched it that day that you asked me to do it. I just wanted to watch it. So I put it on while I was working.
It's a good excuse to watch it.
I know it was perfect. And I was putting it on and it was great. Just like could get like, for one,
were you working remote that day?
I was.
Okay.
The play it's not word for word, but there's a lot to it.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, there's not a lot of, the play doesn't add too much or take away too much.
Right.
But so I watched it and then a friend of mine who hadn't seen it before, I was like, well, we should watch it. So I watched it Saturday night again. And it was so fun just because you get to see, because you're looking for like, okay, I know who did what, and I'm gonna look to see if they actually edited it in so it actually makes sense,
right?
And they do. It's like you're like, oh, that person's missing from the scene, huh? Wonder why? Because they were killing somebody,
right?
That's why. And nothing gets by you, does it?
Nothing.
Wow, that was wonderful.
It's a great movie, though.
It is a great movie. Any excuse to watch
professionally, right now, I mean, you do a lot of theater stuff, you were saying?
Yes.
What's going on? What are you doing?
So my full-time job is for a theater company.
Whoa. Okay.
That's great.
I'm finally putting my degree to use, I say. Right. So I work for a theater at Monmouth, located in Monmouth, Maine. Not to be confused with Monmouth Community Players. They also do incredible work, and we share Cumston Hall. Right. But we're two separate companies. Nice. So Theater at Monmouth is a professional theater that specializes in Shakespeare. Right. We do a lot of classical and Shakespeare plays, at least 2 or 3 Shakespeares every year. And we also do classical plays, but find ways to reinvent them and make them a little bit more modern. So, classical plays for modern audiences type deal. So right now it's our off season. We operate in repertory throughout the summer. And, if you don't know what that means, what it means is we have 5 or 6 shows that just play back to back to back. So we get a company of actors from across the country. They're in rehearsals for a week with one show. They tech it on stage and perform, Thursday, Friday night. And then the next week they're in rehearsals for another show. So these actors are memorizing 3 shows at once, 3 different roles and 3 different shows. And once we open all of the shows, we're just running show after show. So, Tuesday night, we're doing Romeo and Juliet. Wednesday afternoon, we're doing, Clue could be. And then Thursday night is Agamemnon or, some, just another play. Yeah. So it's a rotating schedule of these shows, and you've got actors that are in 3 different shows with 3 different parts and have to remember all of their blocking, all of their lines, all of their cues.
Oh my gosh.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
That is incredible.
We operate out of the summer. The actors arrive in June, rehearse for a couple weeks, and then we open. And by the end of August, we're running 6 shows at once. And then we do a fall show, typically in September. We do a few educational tours. So we get around to the elementary and high school across the state with some Shakespeare shows and some other classical literature. And then we do a holiday show, and then we call it good until the next year.
Wow.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
We learned a lot. We had Danny Gay on a couple weeks ago, and learned a lot about the new updates that happened to the hall with all the lighting and
incredible. Like, the community really loves that space. And so the fact that they were able to raise the funds to get an entire new light plot with LEDs was incredible. And it's been a magnificent sort of addition to a already beautiful space.
Yeah. That's incredible.
Yeah. Now, how long have you been with them?
I have been with them since last June. So roughly, 8 or 9 months at this point.
And even in the off time, are you still pretty heavily involved with them? Or is it a full time?
Yes. So my position is full time year round. I'm box office manager and marketing associate. So obviously during the summer, I do a lot of the box office, ticket selling and dealing with patrons. And then in the off season, I don't want to just say I just do marketing. There's a lot that goes into my job. But right now I'm preparing the website for an update of what we're doing for the summer. And, we're going to start selling tickets. Single tickets go on sale March 1st. If anyone's interested, subscriptions are on sale now.
Whoa. Okay.
But I'm preparing the website, and then I'm also going to start doing some, preparing for our fundraiser over the summer for our silent auction. I'm selling program ads to local businesses. There's a lot that goes into it. So it keeps me busy year round. Yeah. And this is my 8th or 9th month in this position, but I've been with the company for a few years now in different variations. So
cool.
It's definitely a good gig to have.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Yeah. And I love how involved, even I understand, how professional the group is, but they do work hand in hand with the community players too, right? There's some crossover.
Yeah, there's definitely some crossover. Our fall show in the past, has been a Gilbert and Sullivan musical, which is, obviously calls for a large chorus. So, we hire actors to come in, but then we also get community folks to fill in some roles and some, some of the ensemble. So there's definitely some crossover there. We share the space, which is, another thing. So sometimes it's like, hey, where's this lighting instrument? Just a lot of sort of collaboration, and it's a really great thing.
Yeah, I think that's wonderful. Yeah, for sure.
It's community working together.
Whoa!
Hey.
What?
Did we? Maybe I'm the one that dropped the ball on this, but did we have a letter from Sally in the mailbox?
We didn't have a letter from Sally. She was just proud of Aaron because she remembers him from.
So Sally has been our correspondent, if you will.
I love that,
and it's a little bit on us to give her a heads up of like, hey, this is who we have going.
Yeah, we kind of put her on.
We rushed our schedule.
We rushed this one, so I didn't give her time.
So I thought it might be nice.
But she did mention before when I was telling her about the upcoming season how she was so proud to have another former student.
Yeah,
doing so well in theater and coming back to the community that she loves so much.
You had talked about her briefly earlier, but I thought maybe instead of her asking a question like, do you have a story about Sally or something that you had learned from her that you'd want to share?
where do I start? I learned so much from Sally. And if Sally, if you hear this, or if anyone wants to tell her, I say thank you for everything that she did for me, because she helped kind of spark that fire in me that made me go, this is what I want to do. Yeah. With my life. Cause she loved it so much, and she had so much respect and care for the craft that, like, even in her class, she taught us as much as she could across the board. I remember doing some set model stuff. We had to pick a show, or she gave us a show, and we had to like build a model of like what our set would be. She really took the time to hone in on like what we were doing acting wise, and would give us helpful hints. And I know that Lori mentioned that Sally helped Lori with her college auditions. I didn't have many college auditions, like the programs I went to didn't necessarily require auditions to get into, but Sally still helped with the preparation for me to go on and do theater a little bit further into my life. She just is such an incredible influence, and really cared deeply that, if this is what you wanted to do, she was going to help you in any way that she could, to really grow that passion.
She's in the dictionary. You look up teacher, and there's a picture of Sally Jones. That's what she was.
Yeah.
Yeah. In the classic, most beautiful sense of the word, she loved teaching people.
Yeah. I mean, I was so blessed to be very similar boat. Not as much. I didn't do the drama class, right? But I do. 2011, Kelsey Franklin, so forth, and I do 2-person show.
Yes, I did. I remember seeing that.
And my grandmother, who is very, very close to my grandmother, passed away right in the middle of that production. So you already have a 2-person show, right?
Right.
And one of the people has something going on. Kelsey actually has something going on too, and the amount of poise and elegance that Sally brought to the table, even during that, like, you take your time, we will figure it out. But when you are back, you're back.
Right.
I mean, we sat around she had a little breakfast nook in her house, and we were sitting there running lines. And so she means a lot to me too.
Yeah.
What the reason I wanted you to share is that, like, I feel like there are a lot of people, especially that in our community and stuff, like, that Sally's left a huge impact on their life.
Oh, absolutely. And
yeah.
She's, there just countless people that I can think of off the top of my head that have worked for OHMPAA and gone on to do other things that she's helped nurture, that passion. And she's touched so many people with her care and her knowledge and her love, that it's just an incredible thing to know her.
Yeah.
Incredibly talented herself on stage. Yeah. Jeez, her Margaret Chase Smith show was so amazing.
Good. That was incredible.
And how did she do that for that long by herself?
Yeah. And she's so dedicated to it as well. I mean, she took that way farther than I ever thought she was going to.
Yeah.
So pretty. Yeah.
And even, I remember being in class and she was telling us about that's what she was, she was going to be starting this project. And I think Lori and I went to see, a performance in Lewiston, in just this sort of underground black box theater, one of the first iterations of it. And then I just remember hearing that she just kept taking it elsewhere. And I was like, that's great. That's incredible.
Yeah. It was amazing. She's still amazing.
Yeah.
She is.
Yep.
We love you, Sally.
Yeah. Pretty happy to have Sally involved with the show when we can.
Yeah. 100%.
Yep.
I mean, I'm getting to the end of what I had. Guys, do you guys have anything that you wanted to talk about, bring up? Because the next couple questions I have kind of start tying things up. So,
yeah, no, I think this is great.
Okay.
Where are you going from Clue?
From Clue, I kind of honed back in on my professional theater at Monmouth, just preparing for the season. Yep. We start our educational tour in the spring, so late April.
What is that?
So in the spring, we do what we call the Page to Stage tour, where our producing artistic director, Don, takes just some sort of classic children's literature book. And she'll adapt it into a script for the stage. And we hire, a certain number of actors from across the state, from really anywhere, that you just connections that we have in the state. And they rehearse for like a week, and then they take the show out on tour, so to speak, to different elementary schools and middle schools across the state. Cool. Present it to the kids. Some schools do workshops with the actors, so they get to hopefully start, igniting that spark in students across the state.
That's such a cool thing.
And then in the fall, we do a Shakespeare tour of, just any sort of a Shakespeare show. It gets cut down to about 90 minutes. And we tour that to middle and high schools across the state as well to keep the legacy of Shakespeare alive. And,
yeah.
So
that's cool. That's the cool thing.
Turn my focus back to that after Clue.
Yeah. So it kind of goes with what my next question was, but and we have the power of editing, so we can edit anything we need to. But my next question is, why OHMPAA? Why come back to OHMPAA? Why direct on the OHMPAA stage?
Well, first and foremost, my lovely mother, is on the board as well.
Yes.
So which
we love her.
She was excited to get the opportunity to, I think, be a part of something that she's watched me do for so long. And I think it's a great opportunity for anyone to get involved in theater in any way they can. So, she was like, I'm going to be on the board. And I was like, that's incredible. Like, and it's a company that she's seen several shows over the last 20, 30 years.
Yeah.
She drove me back and forth to rehearsals when I was involved in the shows. So she reached out and she was like, oh, we're getting ready for the next season. Do you have anything that you want to submit? And I was like, oh, maybe, I'm not super sure, but I'll submit a few things. So I submitted and came back because my mother was involved. And I was like, this, would be a great thing to do.
Yeah.
Get the ability to do something like this with my mom, because we haven't done really anything theatrically related other than see shows together. So this would be a great thing. But also, again, OHMPAA is where I got my start with theater, or a big part of the start to wanting to do theater as a career. I got to be involved with as many shows as I could be, that time would allow each season. And it's always important, even if you go on to do professional things, community theater is the root. Like, if you think of theater as a tree, yes, Broadway professional theater is the leaves, but I think community theater is the root, because you have to start somewhere.
Yeah.
You can't just wake up one morning and star in a Broadway show. Yeah. Like, you have to start somewhere. And whether that's in a school production or in a community theater production, those are the roots. Those are what ties us to theater, and then the fact that you can do community theater where you have all of these other people who maybe theater isn't something that they ever did before, and it's something that they're interested in, or maybe, they just love being involved in any way in their community. So I think it's important to continue to foster those relationships with community theaters, no matter where you work, because the next big Broadway star, the next Audra McDonald or Sutton Foster can come from
anywhere,
an OHMPAA stage.
Yeah.
It literally could be, someone in our community. Yeah. So I wanted to come back to OHMPAA because I wanted to share what I've learned with some of the people that have taught me things as well.
Yeah.
So,
wow. And do you see yourself directing in the future? I mean, you obviously had a little bit of experience before.
Yeah. Admittedly, directing isn't my favorite aspect of theater. And it wasn't something that I ever really saw myself doing or wanted to do when I was going through college. And even to this day, there's a little bit of like hesitation in the thought of directing, but it's not something I'm afraid of. I just am like, maybe. But I would do it again, and I would continue to do it, because even as a director, you learn from the actors, you learn from the other people that are involved. So even during rehearsals, I'm learning things as much as I'm hopefully teaching other people things.
Yeah.
Well, we're super excited to see how it comes out, and
it's going to be good.
I can't wait. Yeah.
I know. Yeah. I know it already.
It's going to be an awesome start to our season, and I'm just super thankful that you were willing to pitch it. And so that would be April 6th to the 16th, right?
Correct.
So 2 weekends there.
Yes.
And
Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
2 weeks in a row.
2 weeks in a row.
Boom.
Say it again.
Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 2 weeks in a row.
There you go.
There you go. Okay. Yeah. So anything else you'd like to share about Clue or anything like that?
I just hope everyone enjoys it as much as I'm enjoying, working with everyone. It's a great show. And again, for those of you that are familiar with the movie, everything that you love about it is there.
Yeah.
For those of you that are only familiar with the board game, it's fun to play along and see if you can figure out what's going on. And
you got to bring your own dice.
Yeah.
Roll.
Luckily, that's not part of the show.
Oh, no.
That would have been really annoying. Like you're rolling two.
Someone's on stage trying to
take two
trying
steps.
to say a line, and someone's out there rolling dice, being like, "Oh, I can't move into the billiard room yet."
No.
There was one last thing
for you guys. I gotta roll a 12 here.
Right.
Dang it.
There was one last thing I wanted to cover.
Yeah.
And the only reason I really wanted to bring attention to it is because I am outvoted around here heavily, especially when Janelle's here. Because I have some very non-positive feelings about the show Hamilton. And as far as I've seen, you maybe share some of those views with me and maybe think that that's a tad overrated.
Agreed.
Oh boy.
That's a hot take.
Yeah,
it is. It's one that I often get a little bit of side eye for, but I'm happy to share that I agree that I think Hamilton's a bit overrated. Now, I don't mean that I don't like Hamilton, and I don't want to discredit the work that Lin-Manuel Miranda did or anything. The man is obviously brilliant and genius.
Yes.
And the show itself is incredible. I appreciate the work that he did. I appreciate what Hamilton did for theater in general, bringing it kind of back into the mainstream and getting people that might not necessarily know or talk about it interested in it. But then that itself is kind of everyone's scope.
Yeah.
Everyone, I love that people are enthusiastic and love it as much as they do and are excited when they get a chance to see it live. And, no matter how many times they've watched it on Disney Plus. But I think as someone that works, in theater as heavily as I do, I want people to go, I loved Hamilton so much. I want to learn more about theater and musicals. And instead they just hone in on, well, now I know everything about Alexander Hamilton. And I'm like, that's great. Your history teacher would be so proud of you. But the theater teacher whose class you didn't take wants you to now take that appreciation and move it elsewhere. Let that grow as much.
Yeah.
So when someone's like, oh, well, I've seen Hamilton, I go, that's great. That's great. Let's get you into, something else. Maybe you'll like this, because I think even if it's the hip hop that you're, inspired by, or you
watch Six.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. There is Six. There's a musical about the 6 wives of Henry VIII.
Right.
Henry VIII. I
think so. Yeah.
Don't know why I question myself there. I love the show. And that's presented in a pop concert style.
Right.
And even more so the hip hop, there's In the Heights, right, which Lin-Manuel Miranda also wrote.
That was
his first one, right?
Yeah, the first one he had on Broadway. Again, same sort of style of music. And so I want people to take the things that they love about Hamilton and apply it to maybe other aspects of theater, because there are other things out there like it.
Yeah.
They just have to go and find those things.
Yeah.
Can I just say, I haven't seen Hamilton.
See, now I want to go. You're missing out.
At this point, it's like I'm not going to bother.
No, it's definitely worth checking out. He makes such a good point. It's on Disney Plus. I mean, just taking that 2 hours and just do it. I mean,
I go on Disney Plus. I'm going to watch Star Wars, not Hamilton.
I feel like you're still a little bit more positive about it than I am.
Probably.
I appreciate it, but I
agree with you. I think it was such a hit for a really it was a long time.
Yeah.
It was like in like people's forefront for such a long time that I think people killed it.
I mean, it was the only thing you listened to for a while.
I mean,
it's all you heard about.
When I first like discovered it, whenever the first time I heard it, I fell in love with it. It was fantastic. I thought, because I'm kind of like a history guy anyways. Right. And you're like, oh, this is mostly accurate. It's fun. But then it's like, you get into like the actual like story and you're like, you start crying when, his wife forgives him. And you're like, but no, I think it's just people
and scene.
People killed it. It's just overdone.
Yeah. And
overkill. Right.
Yeah.
Right. And, I mean, I agree with you. I loved listening to it nonstop for a while. And, even now and then, Satisfied will come on. I'm like, yep, that's my jam.
Yeah.
Yes. But have you listened to Moana? Because Moana, anyway,
that's a great soundtrack too. Actually,
I think my biggest thing with Hamilton is, I didn't see the original cast. I've seen it on tour when it came to Boston in one of the many times that it did. And my partner got a chance to see the original cast on Broadway shortly after it opened. And he mentioned
that's cool.
That's really cool.
He got his ticket early, managed to get in before ticket prices went through the roof and were more expensive than a mortgage. But, one of the things that he mentioned was how hard the cast was working because it was still in the early, is this going to work? Are people going to want to see this? So they're trying to sell, not just a story. They're trying to sell themselves, so to speak, and sell the show that it's worth going to and worth seeing to become as big of a phenomenon as it did. Right. And now, it's been 5 or 6, 7 years at this point. My concern is that people aren't necessarily, when they get booked in the show, aren't going to work as hard because they don't have to, because people are going to like it no matter what. People are going to come see the show. The title of the show is going to sell itself. Yeah. And therefore they're going to play to sold out audiences. They don't have to work as hard to convince people that this is worth seeing.
Yeah. I am really excited when the rights come out. I'm going to go see Hamilton at the whitest school I possibly can find. I think that's going to be so funny.
I think that's such an interesting conversation anyway, though. Because, I mean, there have been a lot of times where you have, and Scott, I feel like you could get very easily fired about this, so I apologize in advance. But like shows that have a ton of name recognition, for instance, like Wizard of Oz.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. It's very, very easy to do a production of that and completely kill it, sell out, destroy ticket sales. Oh, it's a masterpiece. And thank goodness, like your production was legitimately very well executed and well done.
You don't have to explain yourself. It's all right.
Like I walked away from that being in awe of like the dynamic of you and Dan together and like Janelle's. Yeah. I walked away from your take of Wizard of Oz very pleased, but there have also been times where, I mean, it's like, what the heck just happened?
Oh, yeah.
And so I think that's probably something that needs to be talked about more, is that the dynamic of
name recognition.
Name recognition is great for companies because it will sell tickets and it will bring in the money that you need to operate and to be able to produce other shows. So that's great. But with some of that name recognition, you need to make sure, especially with something like The Wizard of Oz, you need to make sure it lives up to the standards that people have for those types of things, because, everyone's seen some iteration of Wizard of Oz, whether it be the original movie and nothing will compare to Judy Garland in that movie, or, you know, they saw a production that changed their, you know, just changed their life. And so that's the perspective they have on that show. So name recognition is good in some ways, but then you have to make sure that the quality of level that you're producing is, you know, up there to help sell
There's a bigger expectation out of people than
right.
Get that.
Yeah. And I'm sure we'll get that quality with Clue on stage. OHMPAA's 100%. Stage, April 6th to the 16th. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, times 2.
Yeah, no, just one thought is just like it helps so much, especially like with new or upcoming theater companies to get stuff that are going to bring people to the door.
Yeah.
And if they can bring a quality that people are like, they did a really great job, I'll be willing to see their next show.
Right.
And then their next show is another like name recommend, like maybe less known show, but people are like, yeah, I'm going to support it because I liked the last show they did. And then eventually like theaters, in my mind, would get to the point where they can do a show that's super good, but nobody knows about, and be able to have that audience carry over from last shows.
Right.
Yeah.
Sort of bring them back in.
Yeah. You're just like, you're building up your resume as a theater. You're like, we put on good shows.
Right.
You know, but then again, you can do shows that people do know and you can butcher it and it's not good. And then people are like, I don't care what they're going to do next.
Right. If that's what they turn out.
Yeah. So
maybe I won't.
Yeah. So I think above all, I think quality is most important when it comes to a theater company.
So my future in the fall is privy to whatever you are able to produce for Clue. So
so we're putting it all on your shoulders.
He's going to blame you.
I'm gonna work my hardest to make sure
when audiences go Jekyll and who. But yeah,
Jeez.
no, Aaron, thanks so much.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Oh, sorry.
Aaron, thank you so much.
Sorry.
It's been wonderful.
He did a great job setting up.
He did,
as always. And he did a great job of editing this.
I don't know if you're aware.
He hasn't yet.
We have someone very questionable among us. He's questionable looking, acting, and he's just questionably, I don't know.
Questionable.
He's got some questions for you.
I love questions.
So we end the show on strike. And you know what strike is, being a director. You better be there for strike for
Always.
your own show.
Yeah, of course.
Of course. Not everybody shows up. But we know who that is.
Shame on them.
Strike for us is I'm going to ask you 5 questions.
Okay.
And hopefully you'll answer them. That's the whole idea behind the thing. Right. So first off, what are you listening to these days? It's not Hamilton, I'm sure.
This is a loaded question.
Yeah.
For me, it is.
Right. Good.
So today, on the day that we're filming this, a musical that is fairly new to Broadway that I have now seen twice and I absolutely love. It's called Kimberly Akimbo. Their cast album came out today.
I saw that.
And I've listened to it at least twice already today.
Okay.
So there's that. But I also have kind of on repeat the revival cast album of Caroline or Change from a couple seasons ago. I also have been listening to Andrew Lloyd Webber's new take on Cinderella, which had a London run and is coming to Broadway this spring.
How was it? I haven't listened to that one.
There's some really good bops in there.
Yeah.
There's, I think
I'm curious to see by bringing it over here if it will change. I mean, there's going to be some that do, but there are some weird parts to that.
Yes. And I definitely think there's going to be some change. I know that initially they were trying to mount it pre-COVID shutdown, and over the COVID shutdown, they made some changes, which I've heard about. And I can imagine that they will make more changes. I'm a little worried about some of those changes, but we'll see, how it goes. So that's also on repeat. One of,
that's cool.
I tend to listen to a lot of musicals.
No, that's great.
I've also had Beyonce's Renaissance album on repeat, Harry Styles, Harry's House, some of those new pop ones, but I tend to listen to a lot of musicals. So those are a few that have been on repeat for me.
Well, that's good because it leads into my second question of not necessarily a favorite, but what's a guilty pleasure musical of yours?
Oh, I don't know that I have a guilty pleasure musical. Well, actually, I do. So I sort of a not guilty pleasure musical that I really like. That I, is one that I wish I'd seen is Bring It On, the musical, based on, the early thousands cheerleading movies.
Yes.
And oddly enough, some of the music is written by Lin-Manuel Miranda. I think mostly just the music, not so much the lyrics, but he did contribute some there. I think a really guilty pleasure musical that I enjoy is a musical called Diana, and it's about Princess Diana. There is also, if you want to see why it's a guilty pleasure musical for me, there is a recording of it on Netflix. Again, they, filmed it sort of during a shutdown, filmed it on Netflix, didn't do so well on Broadway. And again, if you go and watch it, you might see why. But
you have piqued my interest.
They couldn't compete with the Crown.
But some of the music is, it's fun to listen to, even if you do listen to it and you go, wow, this is rough. It's still kind of fun, and it's one of those things that like you might think it's bad, but it's one of those bittersweet things. You're like, this is actually kind of good.
So bad it's good.
Yeah.
Diana, that's good.
Diana. Guilty pleasure musical is definitely Diana.
Yeah. Nice.
We'll check it out and let us know what you think.
Right.
Yeah.
You can leave us a comment.
Not you.
Right. Jim, person listening.
Jim.
Is that not good? Carol. Carol. If you,
as long as Karen isn't listening.
Good old Carol.
No, we like Karen too, but Carol, especially you, Carol, please watch Diana, or if you have, let us know what you think.
Netflix. All right. Good enough.
All right, Aaron. Back to Aaron. You're a young man, fully involved in theater. What's some new ways that you've been thinking of to stage shows? Something new out of the box.
Oh, something new out of the box to stage shows. I don't know that I've necessarily thought of them myself, but I've been I don't know. I don't want to say inspired because I don't have the means to make these things happen, but there's been a lot of projections on stage these days that have played a huge role into the plot lines of stories. And I think sometimes they can overpower and they rely a little too much on the projections, but I think they're a huge asset because they change the way that you look at theater. It used to just be, you threw up some flat walls and doors and windows or whatever, and that was your set. And now you have all these ways that you can project a set onto a screen or onto a set piece, and it can move around the stage and change the way that things are viewed. So I don't think obviously I wasn't the first person to be like, let's do projections, but I think that that's something that would inspire me if I had the means necessary to do that with something that I would invest in, because it can change the way that you perform a show. Yeah. And even if that's, I guess, tied in with the projections would be live feed cameras that sort of follow the action on set. I've seen a couple shows where the actors might not necessarily be on stage, but you can see them through a window on the set or something. But then there's screens that are showing what's going on, in that sort of section on the stage. And it provides a different view and a different perspective that you might not be able to fully achieve. So it's that crossbreed of mediums of stage and screen. And I think that's something that if I had the means to do, I would definitely want to explore and play with and help stage new things.
They call that the volume. Have you heard of the volume? Mm-mm. What they're doing with Star Wars, a lot of like Mandalorian, they're just creating this big,
yeah,
and they're projecting the screen right there that they.
We were talking about
really there.
Dear Evan Hansen last week too, with the projections and the text messages and all that.
Yeah,
so,
Another show that I loved at the start, and it sort of went into the
everybody loved
overdone.
Like,
I was like, okay, I'm over it.
Maybe are we just hipsters? Is that what's going on?
I love Dear Evan Hansen, so probably not. I don't know.
But we could be though. Like,
let's just say we're hipsters.
Yeah, we have a very niche.
Yeah, you absolutely love Hamilton. You wouldn't fit into that at all.
Yeah, but I loved it before everybody else did.
Oh, okay.
He's got a beard and a knit cap on.
So he doesn't have a beanie.
We really have to ask if he's a hipster?
Right.
All right. Anyways,
so question 3, Scott.
That was question 3. I'm going to ask question 4 now. We're just moving right around.
All right, Boomer, let's go.
Yeah. Boomer, damn.
And that was we'll get your moment. There's no camera.
Get off my lawn. All right. So you're directing, you do a lot of stage managing, but you enjoy acting too.
Yes. Card?
Shoot, quiet. You have any dream roles you haven't done yet?
Oh, a couple, I think. There is Angel in Rent is a role that I've sort of dreamt about for years, and I don't know if that's a role that I might be able to do in this day and age. I am starting to get older, so I might age out of it, but there's also the whole conversation of sort of where does Angel fit in the gender spectrum that is a huge debate right now in theater. Is Angel a drag queen? Is Angel trans? Is Angel non-binary? There's so many different things. So you just depending, I guess, on the vision, maybe I'd fit in that box. Maybe I wouldn't. I don't know. Another dream role of mine that, is still within reach is Pierre in Natasha Pierre and the Great Comet of 1812. It's a newish musical.
Yeah, pretty new.
I say newish because it did have a Broadway bow in 2016. I think it would only last about 9 months because there was some controversy with casting around there. But it's a musical based on a section of War and Peace.
Okay.
Just a very small section in a very large book.
Was it actually on Broadway?
It was.
I did not know
with
that.
Josh Groban.
Wow.
Oh
yeah, Josh Groban played Pierre. So it's just a show that for whatever reason I love and hold near and dear to my heart for any specific reason. I never read War and Peace. I wasn't. I looked at the size of the book and I went, I'm not reading that. But it's just a very small excerpt of the story that gets told. Musically, it's almost an operetta, so to speak. But Pierre is a role that I definitely would love to get a chance to take a crack at.
Cool. Yeah, I have to check that one out.
I've seen the argument with Angel, and I've seen most of the time there's a lot of merit to like the original. You already kind of brought it up, but like the original feeling behind it,
right?
Like the time period when it was written, when it was. So I like that people are really scoping that out for themselves before they perform the role.
Yeah.
Not letting the outside, just kind of figuring it out for themselves.
Right.
So I don't know. I think that'd be really cool.
It's definitely one that I would also love to have the ability to do. I just think it's fun, and I like to have fun when I'm on stage.
The question is, could you pull off the heels?
Oh, I yes. Absolutely.
There you go.
I would kill myself.
Yeah, strangle my. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Broken neck.
So
okay. Last question.
Whoa.
Question 5. I told you we was moving right along. So community theater podcast. How do we build community?
Outreach. I think outreach is a huge thing with building community, and that, and that outreach can come in many different ways. It comes with this podcast. It comes with going door to door and hanging posters, but the biggest way to build community is just get out there and meet as many people as you can to just even, get your name out there. That person might not show up themselves, but someone else they know, they might go, oh, well, I've heard of, so-and-so, and you should reach out. So it's outreach and building connections with other people in the surrounding area.
Yeah.
I don't want to say, with people in your community. Yes, that's the obvious thing, but even just the surrounding area helps build a larger community. And you gotta get out there and you gotta meet the people, and you gotta get the name right, name recognition, so to speak, out there, so that people at least have heard the name, and they might not show up themselves, but they might know people that want to. And so they pass that information along.
Yeah.
And it just becomes like a web, so to speak, of connections.
Nice. Nice. I like that. Outreach.
Me too.
We need some outreach.
Mm-hmm.
It's great.
You got to reach out to you, Aaron. And tell you, I'm excited to see you in Clue. I'm excited to see the whole crew, because that's a good crew you get up there.
Thank you.
It is.
I kind of figured we'd take one last moment and maybe for you to do a little teaser for Clue. What are you thinking?
Yeah.
I'm thinking, Aaron, see that camera next to Aaron or that phone?
That one. Yeah.
That one over there.
I feel like that maybe give a little heartfelt plug for your cast, for your crew, for your show.
Yeah, absolutely. Come see this show, please. if not for me, and if not for Aaron, who's one of the hosts of this podcast,
the other, not me, do it for yourself. If it's a comedy. Who doesn't like to laugh? I don't know anyone that goes, I hate laughing. I don't want to laugh. I don't want to have a good time. You're going to have a good time with this show. You're going to laugh. You're going to find something that's funny. You're going to take something away from it. Hopefully it's not murder.
Yeah.
But the comedy of it.
Yeah.
And see it for someone, if it's not someone in the cast, see it with or for someone that might enjoy it as well. If you're one of those people that enjoys what other people enjoy, like I do, I enjoy things that other people find joy in. Come see the show for them as well.
Yeah, it's a great.
That was beautiful.
That was great. That was wonderful. That was great. It's in April, so that's like it's like that spring. You want to get out of the house,
right? Do it for somebody else.
Go take your partner. Go take
your mother
on a little date. Go to 290 or Pizza Exchange or
dinner and a show.
Yeah, and then go see a community theater.
I think that's wonderful.
I think that's a great way to end the show.
That's a great way to end it.
Go see community theater, because without community theater, there wouldn't be a podcast about community theater.
Aaron, final thoughts. Is there anything we didn't cover?
I don't think so.
That's wonderful.
I think we got everything.
Well, we're super thankful that you agreed to come and play with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. This has been great.
And again, go see Clue, and we're super excited for it. So,
right. And don't forget to come back and see us again here on the Backstairs Podcast.
The Backstairs Podcast.
Backstairs Podcast?
Backstairs Podcast.
Perfect.
I'm John.
No, I already cut.
This has been the Backstairs Podcast. You can stream the audio or video format of this episode anywhere that you listen to your podcasts. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at The Backstairs Podcast. Send us an email at thebackstairspodcast@gmail.com. Redacted!